All right, let's take a look at IGN's final preview for Monster Hunter Wilds and break down what we see, give our thoughts, community feedback. I know you guys have been pretty excited. We're getting close, not too much longer. This week's going to be the beginning of open beta number 2, and then we just have a few weeks left, and the game is ours. All right, without further ado,
on day 3 of my visit to Capcom in Osaka, Japan, I once again
the
sat
showcase
in a
will be
dimly lit
tomorrow
conference
at
room.
2
I was
p.m.
playing
PST.
Monster Hunter Wilds, empty cans of coffee and tea strewn around my station. You must
I'll
be
be there.
tired of being stuck in here playing, said a friendly employee. And all I could think was, I wish I could play more. This is after I played the first 5 hours of Monster Hunter Wilds story and hunted 4 monsters in the Oilwell Basin in a different playstate.
I'm just gonna say right now, 5 hours is baby stuff. I know what she's talking about. Like, I'm gonna play probably like 15 hours my first day, right? Let's be honest.
Get enough. There are so many nuances to master with the new weapon and gameplay features, and I'm the type of person who wants to figure out exactly how everything works through repetition and experimentation. I am a guides writer. It comes with the territory. Me too. But because
even
of
if you
my
only use
time,
one weapon,
I needed to focus on the main story. That's fine. After this hands-on, I know I'll enthusiastically spend hundreds more hours in the game once it's out.
Yeah. Hundreds. Sweats. Yeah, you already know we're going thousands in.
I beelined it through the story to make sure I could see everything I could, and in doing so, I crafted and upgraded only what I could as I went.
Okay, we're going to be pausing periodically. I'll have a link to the full video below, but we're gonna be pausing to take a look through menus and things that we see in the video, as we see them. And one of the first looks we get here is the crafting system. How many of you have not seen the crafting system in this game yet? It's going to look familiar if you've played another Monster Hunter, but I don't think we've seen this too much, right? We haven't really seen too much of the forge system. So you see we have the classic, the weapon tree, the forge list, the upgrade list. You can see the required cost. Now, in some Monster Hunters, as you get higher up with your weapons, you do require, it'll be like, give each of these materials, and then also we want like 8 iron items of your choice, or give us a total of 10 value of material from Chotacabra. So that could happen. But you'll see here, we have the Expedition Tree, which is probably the Hope set, right? Which then goes into a Fire set here, which I would say is Chemetries, except Chemetries is here. So we can also kind of discern the creatures that are going to be coming out in their tier based on this list, right? So we don't know this tree, we don't know this tree, that tree, that tree. We see here there's a Chemetries tree, Chotacabra, we don't know this one, a Bone tree, and we don't know this one. Now, we know that Ajaracon hit us with Blast, right? From the other video that we watched. So it's possible that this is an Ajaracon tree for the sword. Maybe. We don't see it listed here because, we're at a point in the game where they're not at the Oilwell Basin. This could be Othduna, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I would not be surprised if there is maybe a tree from a smaller monster too that we unlock as we go. But there's going to be obviously there's going to be the iron and the bone path, right? We have, I do think Ajaracon's probably the blast. Dragon? I have no idea. Beats me. This fire weapon, I would not be surprised one bit if that is the Yan Kutku chicken set. So like the chicken decapitator and stuff. I would not be surprised if this is that. But it could be something else too. It could be Gravios. Like, who knows, right? Like, we have, of the confirmed creatures, right, we know that there is going to be Doshaguma. So this could be a Doshaguma tree too, right here. Why not? We know there's going to be Doshaguma. We know there's going to be Chotacabra. We know there's Chemetries. We know there's Gypsyros. But I don't see a poison tree listed here, so I'm disinclined to believe that that's going to be Gypsyros. We know that there is going to be Lalabarina. I don't see Paralysis here. It's not to say it couldn't be one of these other weapons, but I think it's going to be, I think it's probably going to be Paralysis for Lalabarina. We know there's going to be Othduna, Nuudra, although those are going to be high rank, so I don't think we're seeing them just yet. We know there's going to be Ray Dao. It's going to be like a lightning set. We know there's going to be Yan Kutku, Kongalala. So Kongalala could be a weapon here too, maybe, but we'll see. You can kind of discern as you're thinking about the game, and you're like, there's only a certain number of creatures that have a certain element, and there's only certain niches like crit or defense boost or negative affinity that'll make their way in. So it's like, okay, well, Chatakabra is giving us defense right off the bat. We're probably not going to get another defense piece like right away. And that's kind of like things that you can figure out as you've been playing Monster Hunters. But it's really nice to see that, like, when you put this weapon on, you're like, okay, I'm going to have 154 attack. You can see my defenses. All of the changes in resistances are going to go to this. Like, it's really cool. It's cool. I like it.
Upgraded only what I could as I went.
Alrighty.
That's the basic loop of.
So, rewinding back,
I beelined it through the story.
she just
to
went
make
through the story
sure
as fast
I could
as she
see
could.
everything I could, and in doing so, I crafted and
Village of the
upgraded
Whispering
only
Winds
what I
is
could
chapter
as I
1.
went.
Alrighty.
That's the basic loop of Monster Hunter. Hunt monster, make better equipment, hunt stronger monster, and sometimes hunt something multiple times to get what you need. With my minimal preparation, I hunted the first 7 monsters: Chatakabra, Kamatrice.
Okay. I said earlier that I think Kamatrice is going to be number 2, so this makes sense, right?
Kongalala, Lalabarina, Balahara.
That's interesting. I do not know if this means that she fought them out of order, or if this is the order we fight them. Like, if she's listing them out of order, or if this is the order we fight them in, because Kongalala and Lalabarina are actually in the forest, but Balahara and Doshagama are back in the plains, where we obviously got to combat them in the beta.
Dashaguma, and finally a repel quest for the Leviathan, Uthduna, without much trouble and never once carded.
Dude, that is insane. Over the years, we've become much better hunters, but you're telling me that none of them carded this player at all. That's crazy. How many of you think you're going to make it through that much of the game without carding at all? You think Uthduna, the Apex, did not card them. So it'll either be a weakened state, or it's just not that hard of a fight. I mean, we have grown as players over the years, but something that makes Monster Hunter challenging, I'll never forget my first instance when I played this bad boy right here, when I played the very first Monster Hunter, right? The very first Monster Hunter. My friend handed me the controller, and I was like, what's this? And he goes, it's Monster Hunter. And I was like, all right, what do I have to do? And he goes, oh, not much. You just have to deliver this egg, right? You just kill monsters, right? And no equipment, just a bone greatsword, no equipment. And I'm taking the egg back, and then suddenly a Rathalos swoops in and kicks my butt. Right then and there, I went home. I begged my mom to take me to GameStop, and we picked up a copy of Monster Hunter. That was it. 46,000 hours later, here we are. That feeling of fear of this guy is coming at me, but I will overcome this. I will get better, and then I'm going to be kicking its butt. That feeling is so incredible, and it gives you like a sense of fulfillment when you achieve that goal, right? If the game is super easy, I might get bored, which is not great. Now, I mean, maybe there's speed running and other stuff I can do, but I don't know if any of you feel that when there is a sense of urgency, a sense of fear that you might lose, it makes you be on edge more, be on guard, play better, because the game is giving you this expectation you are rising to meet this challenge. But if the challenge is on the floor, you may not be so enticed or inclined to like really figure out the combat. Also, the quest book is going right through their shield. I just noticed that. But yeah, like if you play a game on easy mode, you're probably not going to feel the intricate systems of combat that are introduced as opposed to playing it on hard mode. And like this too, like maybe, right? Maybe the game could be too easy at the beginning. I do hope it gets harder later. We'll find out. But not carding at all to an Apex is crazy. I can understand not carding to Chatakabra. Dude's easy. Right? Not carding to Chatakabra at all. Balahara can gimp you. I think Balahara is fine. Chemistries, I don't know. I don't know enough about it. Kongalala didn't really use to cart me. You just have to be careful for the deodorant. I can understand not carting to Kongalala. Just play on its sides. If its breath is attacking you and its butt's attacking you, just attack from its sides. Lalabarina, I don't know enough about, but I could see that gimping you too, especially with the paralysis. However, maybe the hope set is just really strong. So maybe Lalabarina falls over. And then Uthduna should be like...
When I played Monster Hunter World for the very first time, even Toby Kadachi gave me trouble, so I
Toby
was surprised
Kadachi gave
to
me more
encounter
trouble
such
than
little
Anjanath.
friction while playing Wilds. I was actually so surprised that I went back and replayed the story in Monster Hunter World through Anjanath, the 7th large monster. Well, the answer is, I've just gotten a whole lot better since I first played World, even though by that point I had been playing Monster Hunter since the very first one on PlayStation 2.
I obliterated. I walked right through Pookie.
I easily ripped through everything in World up to Anjanath, who then made me sweat a bit before I defeated it on my first try.
Anjanath I ripped through too.
It's funny because I
really
felt the
easy.
same as when I played Monster Hunter Rise. I thought to myself, this feels so much easier.
Magnum Malo had my number.
Because of the fun, zippy wire bug mechanic and other factors, but that feeling was largely due to my increased skill as a player after 600 hours
Magnum Malo
in
kicked
World
my
and
butt.
Iceborne. That's not to say I'm now some pro-level monster hunter. I'm certainly no speedrunner, but I've improved enough to notice. I'm bringing this up because I often see this lamentation in the community, questioning, perhaps is Monster Hunter simply getting easier? I would suggest that we may just be growing into better hunters.
Nah, we went over this before. We are growing as better hunters, but the technological advancement from old world Monster Hunter to new Monster Hunter, we are in a state where we are able to control our player character better than we ever have before. We have more skill expression. We have more ability to maneuver around the creatures, especially in Rise, Sunbreak, right? And the monsters have also been leveled up such that their expression is higher. So yes, they can kick our butts easier, but we can see that and get around them as well. So I think that both we have gotten better as players, which makes the game easier, and the systems that they have put in place, the quality of life that we have achieved over the years lends itself towards us having an easier experience, right? We don't have to paintball the monster every 5 minutes. We don't have to track it down to find out where it's going. We don't have to put down tinged meat in order to incapacitate it for a little bit to get around. We don't have to deal with bad skills on our gear because we have so many options now that we have ways to get around it. Granted, Portable Third had an amazing system and had really good skill sets on a lot of the gear. But I guess what I'm saying now is with seamless maps, you don't have to worry about the loading zones or fighting in bad spots or in tight little crevices. They still exist, but they're just not as pronounced. And I do think the game is easier. I do think the game is easier, but only because we can do more with the game, right? There's only so much you could do before. If you ever go back and play some of those old Nintendo games are brutal, and they only have like 3 buttons, right? You're just handling the D-pad and you press an A and B, but they'll kick your butt.
Things are certainly becoming more streamlined and accessible. See optimal health and status recovery, and
the AI in general is great.
To aim. But the developers' goals don't suggest they intend to make Monster Hunter easier. Monsters have been adjusted.
Dude, I don't think having used the optimal healing is that big of a deal. Maybe you think it's a big deal. I don't think the game choosing whether I want to use a first aid med, a potion, or a mega potion is really that huge. I can just quickly go through the radial wheel and pick, or go through the options menu and pick. Granted, that's going to save you a couple of seconds, but it's not like breaking the meta or changing the way you play. But there are a lot of quality of life changes out there that are exceptional.
To account for the new focus and wound system,
the buffs and debuff timers,
and executive director
fantastic.
Of Wilds, Kaname Fujioka, said the difficulty in Wilds generally follows suit from World. Series producer Ryozo Sugimoto added, "We've been incredibly careful in Wilds to guide players to the fun of Monster Hunter without changing the core of the series. And I very much feel that."
I will say that this is an exceptional gimmick. If you were to take the gimmick from the last few games. So we had the hunter styles and arts from Generations. They were okay, but I didn't care for most of them. I didn't interact with most of them. In World, the clutch claw tenderizing system, I hated. I'm not a fan at all. It broke up the rhythm of the fight for me. And the creatures were designed with that in mind. So, like, you'd fight Gold Rathian and Silver Rathalos, and the intention is you need to get those spots tenderized, right? Because they're going to be really hard to hit through. I don't mean difficult. I mean physically hard. And then you play them in Rise, and those spots are now a little bit easier to hit. You can go for the head on like Gold Rathian, you can go for the wings on Silver Rathalos and stuff, and you're going to deal decent damage. But they built them around tenderizing with the Clutch Claw in World, and I was not a fan, personally. The focus system here, you don't necessarily have to interact with it to accomplish what you want. Now, I also didn't say what Rise's gimmick was. There was like the silk binds, right, and the silk bugs, and the skills that you'd have associated with that. But really, those are basically the Hunter art style arts from Generations, right? Like even the spiral pierce that you did with dual blades, where you twirl through the air and it's like OP super damage. I use it. I mean, I abuse it. Why not? It existed in Generations. Even the new attack we have with Hammer, where they're winding up and they're doing like this meteor strike thing, that existed as an art in a different sense in Generations, right? So we're seeing kind of like residual effects over the years of these different systems, and I do think that the focus system is amping up to be a great change.
Wilds
Creatures still get to stay
directs players
fast,
into the
and
meat
we
of
get to
what
stay
Monster
fast.
Hunter really is, hunting large monsters that could be set-piece bosses in other games. The main missions smoothly integrate many small monster hunts and gathering as part of the story. Which
Wait a
is
minute, wait,
wonderful
what was
mission
that?
Smoothly integrate.
Oh my god, they're not little flubbers. There's an arachnophobia mode you get to play. You'll get to experience it in the beta this week. It turns these guys into little flubbers. So if you have like arachnophobia, it doesn't work on large mons, but it's so funny. These little like green blobs, these little snots fall out of the sky. They're so funny. You remember the Flubber movie, or you don't because you're too young. But funny movie, I think. Maybe it's not anymore. That's great. That's great. Those guys are awesome. Now I want to touch upon. So they discussed that the meat of Monster Hunter is monsters that could be bosses as set pieces in other games, and I agree with that. But we're not going to talk about the salmon population and how this might affect it. How Valstrax affected the salmon population. There is usually an ecological balance that's happening, and we're not just hunting monsters for the sake of hunting monsters, right? We're like, oh, in the first Monster Hunter, you enter this village, and there's a creature terrorizing it, and this hunter tried to stop it, and he lost his leg, and now he can't hunt anymore, and you got to take his place, and like it's a whole thing. And nowadays, it's like, you need to take down Nergigante. He's coming for you now. It's like, okay, well, why? Because this dragon's trying to go back to the earth and he's stopping him. And you're like, okay, great, I'll do this. And then you get into a fight and this one guy wrestles a Rajang and you come back and he goes, reminds me of that time. And you remember that time. And there's like these ecological imbalances. Like Zora Magdaros is trying to go die, to go back to the planet, and Nergigante is feasting on it like a parasite, right? Like a vulture. And you need to fix the balance. Malzeno is going crazy bananas because of these dudes that'll eventually become, it'll overcome them and it'll become primordial Malzeno and like, but all of these things affecting these afflictions and different monsters and hypers and apexes and things all throughout the generations. You have to help fix the balance, but never just to kill monsters to kill them, right? Now, don't get me started. I think killing's a mercy because when you cap the monsters, dude, they've shown some gruesome cutscenes in past Monster Hunters with what they do with the captured monsters. You think those weapons and armors just come from nothing? Baby. Monster Hunter is all about hunting these mini bosses that would otherwise wreak terror if they're not kept in check, and I love that.
Gathering as part of the story, which is a wonderful way to teach players about these necessary activities without them feeling like a roadblock.
If it's honey you're after, I know the perfect spot.
About these
Man, I'm just going to say, I don't need to know how to gather honey, but I am thankful that I only have to get 3 of them. And they're all next to each other, man. They're all next to each other. I don't want to carry a giant egg back for like 20 minutes with bullfangos charging at me, these warthogs, little Poombas coming at me, they call me Mr. Pig, charging at you. You would clear out these areas on a path to deliver these eggs and stuff. And then after you pick up the egg, it populates the map with the most annoying creatures that, I mean, rightfully will try to stop you because maybe you're carrying herbivore eggs and now these Apsaros showed up, or maybe you picked up a Rathian egg and now the Rathian's hunting you down the whole mission, which you had cool tech back then that you could do too, where if you didn't want to hunt down the creature and find out where it was, you could pick up the egg, it will come to you. Eventually. It will come to you. So it's nice that we only have to capture like 3 honeys.
Necessary activities without them feeling like a roadblock.
If it's honey you're after, I know
And
the
it's
perfect
integrated
I
in
admit
the
I'm
story.
conflicted about all of these
Right, it's
upgrades.
integrated in the
I find myself
story.
always wanting to pull a back in my day and describe some archaic, ludicrous thing we used to have to do just to get by to be able to enjoy the game. Like delivering explosive powder stones from the top of a volcano while
Do not get me started on that. While the Bullfango are charging it, and the Eoprey, and all of them are coming your way, and the
avoiding
Vespoids.
Gravios and Ioprey, and then doing it 3 more times because the quest didn't count as cleared unless you were the one who posted it, and your whole party of 4 needed to clear it to join the next quest.
I need to correct something said here. Do not think that this is the way that Monster Hunter was. So, depending on the game, yeah, you had to clear things 4 times, but most of the time it was your urgent. You would post your urgent quest to rank up. I would post mine. They would post theirs, and that's how you got around. But all the little missions, for the most part, throughout generations, you just had to do them once. Now, it was really bad to do some online quests. It's like capture 20 golden fish. And if you didn't have other players and you were trying to do the online ones, you might not be able to have the resources to gather them because they didn't respawn over time.
I suppose I'm trying to say Monster Hunter has come a long way, and making it less
It
complicated
really
and
has.
stripping away its non-essential bits and pieces has made it more palatable to a much larger crowd. Now it's largely just delectable meat with the occasional bone and dessert. There are no bitter vegetables to power through to be able to enjoy everyone's favorite parts.
I will say on this note, a lot of the beginning of Monster Hunters is let's go set up our camp, let's go do this, let's go take care of that, and gather a couple of these items. And maybe there's like, okay, do a couple more village quests to unlock this section. You have your choice over gathering items or hunting. But in Generations, it was really bad. Well, Generations Ultimate, right? Because you had to do so many gathering missions that were really bad before you actually got to fight something. I think it was like 2 hours when I finally got to pick up my blade and attack something worth attacking. So I'm okay with giving us some veggies to eat with our dinner. I would just really like those vegetables to be spread out enough with the meat. You know what I mean? I don't want to eat all of my sides before I get to have my main course, and then eat a bunch of sides and then more sides and then finally get dessert.
Except maybe grinding for a specific material.
What you think we'll find?
I also don't want the world experience
And
of
while
multiplayer
on
where
one
it's
hand,
watch a
I do
cutscene,
overjoyed
back
that
out,
so many
abandon,
people have
post, now
grown
we
to
can hunt
truly
together.
enjoy something
I hate
I
that.
love. There was something about being one of the few who prided themselves on eating their vegetables with a smile on their face. Even so, the evolution of Monster Hunter has continued to impress me. The nostalgia I have for how things used to be doesn't cloud my judgment enough to make me misremember how I actually felt more often than not about needing to gather dozens of mushrooms and herbs and wyvern eggs before I could just...
So, these areas were notorious for once you picked one up, it would actually put a giant thing blocking you from pathing back to an area. So you would have to go a very specific route to fight things. And yes, it's okay to say you miss these systems, but remember what they were like back in the day. Did you enjoy Plesioth staying in the water all the time, needing a sonic bomb to get him out? Did you enjoy Cephadrome swimming through the sand at all times? Did you enjoy the underwater combat and try? Did you really? Did you really? No. You want underwater combat because, ooh, it's underwater and it's different. No, you do not miss underwater combat unless you played Lance. If you played Lance, sure, maybe you missed the underwater combat. Cadius was really cool. Maybe you wanted to go back and be like, okay, but no, if you played Greatsword, you do not miss swinging your Greatsword at 0 gravity doing a stumble for like 25 minutes and then finally picking your sword back up before you could swing it again. You don't miss that. I know that you don't. You don't miss seeing cracks in the mountain wall to gather with your pickaxes, and then maybe they all shattered and now you can't carry things back. You do not miss having a map that you picked up out of the box to be able to see all of these arena areas here. And then if your inventory filled up, you threw away that map because it was the most useless item that you could throw away to make room for something else. In addition to that, do we really need power charm, power talent, armor talent, inventory slots? It's like as we rank up, we are actually punished in our inventory management for getting extra things that we need, because it's just free damage and free defense. So of course you're going to make them, but do they have to take up 4 inventory slots to get, plus the map, plus the easy rations, plus the first aid meds, plus everything else you're going to give us? We don't need that. There is such quality of life to be had now, right? We have the portable spit that you can actually toggle off so it doesn't show up in the scroll wheel when you're toggling through, or you could turn it back on if you want to be able to access it in the fields. We'll be able to eat well-done steaks that take like a half an hour to eat, but they are so tasty. And when you eat them now, we'll be able to get extra max HP, and it heals us. That's something they didn't do before, which is cool. They gave us stamina. Such qualities of life over the years are great, right? I think they're great. Also, how many of you enjoy picking up shinies off the ground when they drop? Sometimes they despawn. I don't pick them up after fighting something for so long, right? And then you try to pick it up in the middle of a hunt and you get punished because you're being greedy. You're being disrespectful. You carve a tail, that's one thing, but like, I appreciate being able to just break the face and now I get the part. Break the wing, now I get the part. If I fail the mission, because like, what happens if you get comboed in Old Monster Hunter and you didn't pick the piece up off the ground? It's just gone. It's just gone. You know? So I can have a deep appreciation for this. But like, do you really love mantles? They're back. We've seen them. Do you really love putting a giant trench coat or like a trash bag on your character that you just spent so long making look beautiful or really weird? Maybe you made them look like Kefka. Who knows? I don't know. And then you're like, wow, I love my character. Let me put a trash bag on them. They look better now. You might as well keep it on because it can at least get like attack up +1. No, dude. I want to be able to hide the mantles. If you can hear us, we want to be able to hide the mantles, okay? Just saying. Just saying. But like, I don't want consumable whetstones, right? You would run out of whetstones, and if you were so unlucky in a hunt or you bounced off so much, you just have to have red sharpness, bouncing off with every hit until the monster maybe eventually died, possibly. Like, we don't miss these things. You just think that you do. You know? You just think that you miss these enemies like bullfangos and bulldromes until you're fighting them again, and then you remember that you really don't.
Finally hunt. This is tedious, and my god, please just let me
I'm pausing way too much, sorry. But I have a lot to say. See the bullfango!
Delivers the thrill of
That's the guy right there.
Faster than ever before. The main story immediately spits you into the thick of things, and you'll have hunted your first large monster in the first 20 minutes after customizing your
Chadacabra,
character
Desert
and
Trotters,
palisade.
first mission.
There are no Kessedon kerfuffles to contend with. You are one of the chosen
Oh my god,
hunters to
Kessedon
protect your
kerfuffle's a good
fleet
one.
from the big bads, and so that's
Cool,
what
you
you
cool
do.
with that?
We're okay now.
The action of these monster hunting quests are seamlessly woven together with narrative tasks that drive the story and exciting cutscenes that drop you right into the fray. Travel is often accompanied by NPCs who progress.
Follow Yasai for Village of Whispering Winds. Now, we saw Village of Whispering Winds as chemistry, so you're probably going to follow Yasai, and then it's going to lead to the felines being chased, and then you're going to fight the chemistries, and then you're going to get to the village. I bet that's going to be the train of events that happens here, right? It'll probably be like the honey. It's going to be like follow Yasai for the honey, and then it's going to be the chemistries, maybe. Something I want to point out, too. Dude, these buffs are just so good, man. The timers, I can't get over them. I can't get enough.
The story with dialogue, so little time is wasted. The
I
entire
like
experience
that
feels
you just
full
get to
and is
jump
structured
right
like
in.
A more traditional RPG, as you aren't posting quests from a board and loading into a map like in previous Monster Hunters.
This has me worried. I haven't looked it up. I don't know if they've confirmed or denied arena quests, but if we're not using a quest board, where will the arenas be? Will there be a village in another map that has these arenas that we can compete in? I like a lot of people A lot of people really like arena quests. Yeah, Demon, I can. I'll link it in one sec. A lot of people like arena quests. So now we're going to have these situations where we may not have that as an option. I think that one of the best ways to practice your weapons... Yeah, let me get that link for you right now. One of the best ways to practice your weapons is to go into an arena with preset gear, right? So I really do hope arenas will be back.
At the same time, you still have robust freedom to explore and discover things on your own without having
We'll find
your
out
hands
soon.
held. I'll need to play more to discover exactly how the new decoration system and ingredient farming work, but it does appear you'll still need to keep up on eating and inventory management yourself to be the best hunter you can be.
Food is
hope
very
there
important.
Are challenges ahead that will require
Being able to eat so you have less stamina consumption, being able to eat so you take less damage, so that the enemies are weakened. These are all very, very important functions. There's ones that increase our status effects. There are ones that make us take less damage from certain elements. Very powerful if you've never used these before, you're not familiar with the meal system in Monster Hunter. Being able to just increase your max health and your stamina for a good amount of time. Very, very strong stuff, okay? And the decoration system, we know there's going to be one. We know that we'll be able to craft baseline single skills, and the dual skills are going to be what's like the grind system and what's really going to be the sought after items. I just don't know how it's going to come, but I can't wait to find out what that system will be like.
adequate preparation to succeed, as that's where I think Monster Hunter shines its brightest. But I do believe I may have encountered at least one of those in the oil well basin.
I think these might be tracks.
No! No!
We discussed the oil well basin
Tracks!
and the 4 monsters I hunted there at length in our interview with the developers. But to summarize,
Dude, Rompopolo just came right out of the oil.
Gravios, and the area's apex, the Black Flame New Udra, inhabit the oil well basin, which is designed to be more
Nudra's
vertically connected rather than the more horizontally laid out Windward Plains and Scarlet Forest. Though it's filled with lava and mucky oil silt, it's inspired by the deep sea and the inhabitants of the ocean floor. This is much more apparent during the plenty.
This is like the
especially at
Coral
night, where
Highlands.
Deep into the oil well
That was
basin
supposed to
takes
be
on an
underwater,
ethereal
but
blue hue to
atop.
contrast its muddy palette during the fallow
my
and the
God,
bright
that's
burning
so
red oranges
nice.
of the fire spring. The change in climate sometimes made me feel
Plenty Follow and Fire Spring. This area looks like it could be a place in like an RP, like a space RPG, right? Like maybe like
I was
Destiny
in
or
an
something.
entirely different
And this area is
place.
like a Star
And this
Wars.
was even more pronounced in the oil well basin.
I
The
love
appearance
this.
even changes quite drastically
I
from
love
day
this.
to night, which add even more variety to these vast, large, diverse maps.
3
meant to be
states plus
2 to
day and night.
2.5 times the size of the maps in world. I feel like I barely got a handle on the layout.
What?
Meant to be 2 to 2.5 times the size of the maps in world.
This is 2.5 times the size of a map that we see in World? That's insane.
I feel like I barely got a handle on the layout of the oil well basin while hunting, and will likely need to make a
Look at the
concerted effort to learn its
bioluminescence.
flow and remember where things are, like the very helpful environmental traps.
Oh, dude, that
As
was
for
like
the monsters
2,000
I faced
damage.
there, they were a unique and impressive bunch. Rompopolo is absolutely grotesque and makes great use of its environment by injecting gas into the ground to
He's
cause
just a
large
puffy boy.
explosions
He's an
that bubble
eclair.
up from beneath the oil silt.
He's not that gross. He's like
When I
he's like
beat
a
it down
chocolate
enough, it
eclair.
deflated. A
Look at him.
hilariously sad sight I was delighted to experience.
Got it on the ground.
But now he's old.
I can see a Jarakan giving some players a bit of trouble. It's an
This is
ape-like
Rajang.
Fane beast that's aggressive, fast, and strong. It also
This
just
is Rajang.
looks
You-
cool. How
dude,
its
you just-
body glows,
you just
I can see a
defined
Jarakan giving
Rajang.
some players
Listen.
a bit of trouble. It's an ape-like Fane beast that's aggressive, fast, and strong. It also just looks cool. How its body glows.
That's a
when it's
Rajang if I
ramped
ever
up
heard
is
one.
Magnificent, as is one of its strongest attacks, which looks kind of like a
Straight out of
fire-like
Wild
Sonic the
Hearts.
Hedgehog homing attack.
That's Rajang. If you have an ape-like creature charging at you like Sonic the Hedgehog, you will find yourself a Rajang. If it looks like a Rajang, walks like a Rajang, and talks like a Rajang, and he's fast and furious, and he's coming to the new world.
Though Gravios, a returning monster, has been a pain in the ass to fight in previous games with its
Yeah,
rage,
dude, Gravios
people,
is always
and
a pain in
super
the
tough
ass.
defenses, I found fighting it in wilds much more enjoyable.
Because it's one of the earlier creatures. There is definitely a scaling with the
Its
level of creatures
hitboxes
when
are
you
more
fight them.
finely tuned,
in my
and the
opinion.
developers were able to gradate the toughness of its body more specifically, so it was easier to land hits on the points I actually wanted to get at.
You can see where the weak spots are and where the reduced damage are
I
as
also
well.
didn't get hit by seemingly unfair hip checks, which was a welcome change. Gravios is
Well,
a new
you did
attack
just
the
perfect
devs were
evade that.
happy to be able to implement too. A beam
That is not
focused
a
on the
new
ground
attack.
that turns the immediate surroundings into molten rock that persists with a fiery effect for a few seconds.
I understand that they're saying the devs introduced this to Gravios, but that is a Teostra attack or Kolv
When it
Teroth.
comes to the Apex, New
Right.
Udra, wow, that thing is awesome, and it also
Okay,
really threatened to
hold
kick
on.
my ass.
We need to
It's
look
the
at that.
only monster that turns the immediate.
Normally, with breath attacks, you cannot guard them. However,
surroundings
watch
into
this.
molten rock that persists with a fiery effect
You're
for a
going to
few
see the
seconds.
Great Sword guard, and then I think they run out of stamina, and that's why they got hit. Or it's a cutscene.
When it comes to the Apex, New Udra,
Either this is a clash, this is a cutscene, or they run out of stamina and they
wow,
get knocked back.
that thing is
I'm inclined to believe they ran out of
awesome,
stamina.
and it also really threatened to kick my ass. It's the only monster that carded me during my playtime with Wilds, and I had the hardest time getting a read on its movements and intentions.
You better cart to an Apex.
New Udra is an octopus-like cephalopod that uses a skeleton entirely new to the Monster Hunter series. So of course, I wouldn't have any familiarity to rely on. Its
We did talk
tentacles
about
can
this.
all move independently of each other.
You can see
and
the
it hits
sensories on the
hard.
tentacles that are
Its
telegraphing the
unpredictable,
attack.
multi-directional attack
and the
patterns
direction that
seem
you need to
encourage
move.
teaming up with friends or at least NPC support hunters too. New Udra is
Never be
uniquely
afraid to
beautiful.
roll through
the
attacks
sensory
either.
organs on the tips of its tentacles glow when
Sometimes
it
going
intends to use
backwards
them
is
in an
the
attack,
play the
and
monster wants you to
occasionally
do.
covers itself in oil silt and engulfs itself in flames.
That's so cool.
Another cool use of the environment by an oil well basin inhabitant.
I wonder if there'll be
One of its
pods
attacks
that we can
even
shoot at them to
resembles a
take the silt
dangerous
off.
fireworks display.
Dude, that move I haven't gotten a
Truly,
wrap
New
around.
Udra
I've seen
is
it
an
like 2 or 3
impressive
times.
sight to behold. A
I don't have a
slithery,
guaranteed dodge yet.
octopus-like menacing creature engulfed in flame,
There might not be one.
hell-bent on your destruction. I'm really looking forward to how
That
this feature is
Ajaricon set's
incorporated
definitely
into
got
Monster
fire
Hunter
resistance.
Wilds story too. I had no real context around the monster hunts in my time in the oil well basin, as I could only really experience the hunts themselves after the quest start and before the quest complete screen. So all I can really tell you is that the monsters I fought in this build were high rank, as well as my equipment. The build I played in
Yeah.
graphics mode on the PS5 also performed significantly better than the open beta test. The monsters and environments
Which we won't get
acted
to
as they were
experience
meant
this week,
to,
because
for the
it'll
most
still be
part,
the
and I didn't
same
experience
optimization
any jarring
specifications as
graphical
the other
issues or
open beta.
bugs. This comes with the caveats that I was offline playing in single player, and that I, personally, probably wouldn't notice if there was a small graphical stutter while fighting for my life. But if you're in it for the
That's fair.
gameplay, I can confidently say that Monster Hunter Wilds works well and looks good, in my opinion. I'm especially impressed by the fire and lava effects I saw in
It
the
looks
oil
so
well
good.
basin.
Wow, what
Look at how incredible this area looks.
One of my big
That's so beautiful. It's got like God of War Ragnarok, like was it Muspelheim vibes? It looks so good. I do think that it is concerning. So, I mean, we've been around the block, right? They were probably asked specifically to comment on, I mean, maybe they weren't, but I think they are probably asked specifically to comment that the optimization hasn't been, like it's not like the ones from the beta, that it's changed, right? Like we've been told like a bunch of times, this upcoming beta is not going to have the changes. We're not going to notice them. So, of course, in this preview, it's probably very important that they like make sure you guys discuss like how it felt, right? Because obviously there was a lot of negative feedback from the beta. But I am nervous. I want them to release a benchmark because it's so difficult to purchase the game on your computer if you had problems and you have a PlayStation or an Xbox. But it is nice to have the game on your computer.
biggest curiosities is how Wild's story progression will work in multiplayer, as it's one of the best parts about Monster Hunter and something
see, this
I
is from the
haven't been
beta.
able to experience in Wilds outside of the open beta test. But I'm told you'll be able to play through the story with friends without the roadblocks encountered in World, which is the most important factor to me. The impressive variety of monsters in Monster Hunter Wilds, both in appearance and behavior, and the environments I've seen have so much attention to detail.
This is so colorful. Sorry to interrupt you again. Remember, we'll have a link to the full video in the description so you could watch it unimpeded. This is so beautiful. I love this. We've also seen that mantles are back. We saw the Rocksteady mantle on Olivia. I don't know how I feel about it because I feel like to an extent when we have those existing mechanics, the creatures will be tuned around that, maybe. But there might be a wide variety of manzels, so maybe they're not quite so tuned around it. But like, I don't know why they can't just make gear that's resistant and then have us do that, or like a potion, something that's not visually changing. But yeah, they discussed that they're considering releasing a benchmark so that we can see how our computer will run. I don't know if they'll have a benchmark for the PlayStation as well. That would be interesting. But I think right now I'm leaning towards the PS5.
Detail that it's clear how much care the developers put into the series. This is especially
the
so
fishing
after
looks great,
speaking
too.
with them
The
about
Woodwoods.
it. Truthfully, I could yap about Monster
I
Hunter
can't
for
wait for
days,
Cuckoo.
but I'll leave it at this. I can't wait to sink another 300 hours into a new Monster Hunter.
In the first week, right? Well, in the first month. How many hours can you actually reasonably fit in the first month? Let's see. I gotta know the answer to this. 16 hours a day times 30. You could fit 480 hours into that bad boy.
Thanks for watching our preview on Monster Hunter Wilds. Make sure to look out for the full final review closer to launch. For more on Monster Hunter Wilds now, don't miss our interview with the developers on the Oilwell Basins and its apex, New Udra.
So the reason you would have a benchmark on consoles, Demon, I would agree with you normally, but because this is a simultaneous worldwide release on all platforms, I do think that being able to run a benchmark on, like, let's say if I was getting ready for Dawn Trail in Final Fantasy XIV and I had a benchmark for my PlayStation, I had a benchmark for my PC, and I see that they're the same level of optimization, they run about the same, I'm probably going to use the PlayStation and capture card it over, right? Kind of the same situation here with Monster Hunter. If I run a benchmark for console, like let's say they don't give us one and I know it works, having a benchmark to compare the two when you have both available is so good, right? Like, I know they haven't. I'm giving an example. I'm being hyperbolic. Having a comparison between the two when you possess both consoles is the thing that makes it really good, right? Obviously, it's going to run on the PlayStation, but is there going to be a day one patch? Is there going to be this? Is it going to be that? So you're like, okay, well, what am I going to begin my journey with, right? So it's nice to know. And we have, see, at least one person here would appreciate having both, right? So I think it's pretty good. Plus, you're like, maybe I want to get it on the Xbox instead of the PlayStation. So how will it run on each, right? So having the benchmark is good because maybe you didn't participate in the beta, you know? I think it's very valid to have benchmarks on whatever they can be on so that you can make the comparison. Of course, if you only have one option, you only have one option. I think that Monster Hunter is shaping up to be an exceptional release. So many people are going to play it. It's a worldwide phenomenon now. It was easily the most popular attraction at PAX West back when they had it as a like, that was like the first Western like playable version. People were all over it. You could, like, the line's capped in like a minute, maybe two. It was crazy. I do think this is the most hyped it's ever been. There's a lot of big diversity across the weapon styles. I think all of them look very good, and they've listened to the feedback. They've made changes. They've added the hit stop back to weapons. So the meaty weapons like the hammer and the hunting horn and the greatsword. Greatsword's my baby. That's going to be really, really good. It feels wonderful to see those back in. The new hunts, again, I don't care too much for returning monsters coming back. There are some I'd love to see. I'd be happy to hunt them. Absolutely. And it'd be nice for them to use the resources of creatures that they've already built. But a new roster is totally compelling to me. I mostly want to see a new roster, couple of returning creatures. But when they bring them into play, it's like, okay, well, how do they fit into the ecology? And something else I've touched upon too is like, they're not going to give us like 95% of the creatures are fire types, right? That's not going to happen because then you have an imbalance because they're all going to be weak to an element and they're all going to be the same elements. So like, how are you going to make gear that's balanced? So definitely going to be a spread. And it's just, there's a lot of really good quality of life improvements here. The sacred effectively being the palamute to let you recover on the go. Some people may say it's cheap. Use it if you want to use it. If you want to heal and you want to sharpen without standing still, please, by all means, right? By all means. Being able to activate the vine traps without like a a feline accompaniment in the field, activating it for you, that's going to be really good. Being able to use traps and then pick them back up, that's such a big quality of life. Being able to pick up the bombs to replace those or roll them, that's going to be such a big quality of life. Like, maybe I don't use that so much, but definitely putting a trap down, creature flies away or runs away, and then you have to pick it back up. That's going to be invaluable, right? It's going to be invaluable. I think it's going to be so important. The buffs and debuffs on our hotbar disappearing with the timer when they are ticking down to 0, that's going to be really cool. And just in generally speaking, too, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited. Those are my thoughts right now. I think that people are going to have a good time. Veterans are going to have an amazing time. It looks like it's going to be shaping up to be a really good monster hunter. I am a little concerned with some of the creatures. When I fought Doshagama and Balahara, I didn't have the most enjoyable time with them. Some of their hit spots were a little annoying and may not be fun to hunt, but I'm going to keep an open mind on that. I think there's a couple of creatures traditionally that I tend to sway towards, like Rathian's always been one of my favorite training dummies. I didn't care too much for Tetranodon, but it grew on me later on. Gossarag, the same thing. Yan Kutku's always been a very big classic for me. I love Yan Kutku. I cannot wait to make it set. I know that if I'm beelining through the story, Kutku is a creature that I will stop and I will grind out its whole equipment set. It is that cool. I love it. And I really hope we get the little puppet out for the Palico as well, where they have like the giant Kutku head. But yeah, we find out more information tomorrow. It'll be at like 5 o'clock Eastern, I think. And then we get the beta on Thursday, and we'll get more. Well, that's all for me right now. Thank you guys for my long-winded explanation, pausing throughout the video and everything. It's a pretty long video, but I had a lot to say, and I hope you guys have enjoyed. So I'll catch you next time. See ya.